it's another beautiful day in Inverness today. We've had 3 days of pretty much non-stop sunshine, so we should really embrace these moments and opportunities when we have them. So here I am cycling out to the outskirts. Basically, Inverness is a city of around 60,000 people, I think, so it's not big, which means it's actually quite easy to get outside the city and, you know, without having to deal with endless suburbs and industrial estates. So yeah, so this is us currently cycling west out towards Loch Ness. Loch Ness is sort of a major body of water, obviously famous for the Loch Ness Monster, which does exist. So yeah, it's nice. This is one of the main reasons I moved to Inverness, because the countryside is just so connected to the actual city. And you compare that to, you know, any major city in the UK. Edinburgh, the city that I'm from originally, basically, you know, Edinburgh's not huge either. It's only 500,000 people or something, but it's a pain in the arse to really get outside far into the countryside. You've got East Lothian and the area around North Berwick, which is beautiful. But other than that, you know, in every other direction, all you've got is endless farms and agricultural land, which, you know, some people like that sort of thing. I don't really think it's that pleasant to be in. So yeah, Inverness is a bit different. It's surrounded kind of by forests on every side and lots of beautiful mountains. And you know, within less than 20 minutes you will be outside into the proper countryside, so that's nice. Something that's also really nice about cycling here is not the wind, which is currently slamming right in my face, but yeah, so something that's nice about Inverness is that there's just not as much traffic. The pace of life is generally a lot slower. Lower crime, and that sort of thing is, you know, just one of the better things about being here, I think. Edinburgh can be a bit sketchy, as they say. Yeah, so today is meant to be about 20 degrees, so for Scotland that's hot, and you've got to make the most of it. You really do, which I fully intend on doing for the next few days. I've got a few projects to be working on, but again, the beautiful thing about working for yourself is you pick when you work and when you know, I don't have to ask the teacher for permission if I want to take a day off, which has just changed everything in my life, to be honest. I've always felt, you know, in working in a company, I've always just felt like a slave. I know everyone does it. Everyone, you know, the vast majority of the population go in and work in offices and businesses and things like that, and You know, so I think just some people it's just not for. You know, I've tried, god damn it, I've tried so hard. I always find that it's okay, I'm okay at first, but then things inside, you know, working in a business, things start to really grate on me after a while. The same boring chat, staring at the same faces, all the gossip, because, you know, no one really cares when they're working for a company. They're just in it for the money, usually. Not all cases, you know, but yeah, so not for me. I've really enjoyed just the variety that having a business brings. I get to work on projects constantly that are always completely different. I'm still doing the same work and still creating digital products or websites or printing or marketing materials and stuff like that, but the thing is that your clients are always so different, and I love that, you know, like take for example, you're working for a tour company, right? Which is something I've just completed recently. Now, I could tell you a bit about Scotland and its history, and you know, the industries and you know, that make up the economy, all that sort of stuff. But I don't really have that in-depth knowledge that, say, a tour guide would have. So when I'm developing a website and market materials and branding for a tour company, I have to kind of immerse myself in it, you know, like, and through that process, you really do learn so much about so many different types of businesses, which you can then take into your own world, if you like. And basically, you know, it gives you a sort of a universal knowledge of how industry works, how companies work, what makes things tick. And you see so many things about certain industries that you would just have no idea from, you know, from the outside looking in. So that's cool. That's really good. I love that. And what else do I love? I love the way that every minute and every second and every hour that I am working on things with my business is for me, not for anybody else. It's not anybody else's vision. It's not anybody else's ego that you've got to look after, you know? It's about you and where you want to take the business, and you know, for me that is just so rewarding, you know. And I really like the relationships that you can build, you know, working as a designer for a you know, because oh Jesus, have I got flat? No. Yeah, I really like the relationships that you build and design and with the company owners. You really do meet some really interesting people. You see, the thing about founders and company owners and directors and stuff is that they're in it because they love it. They love it. They're in it because they're passionate about what they do, usually, you know? What you have is interactions with a lot of really driven and tend to be quite smart people. you know, who have gone that extra mile to, without sounding cheesy, realise their dreams, you know, and that's a very sort of different outlook on life than you would find in a company where, you know, people are doing that old 9 to 5, waiting to get their payment at the end of the month. It's just grinding, you know. I don't know. Oh God, thank you. So yeah, so that's cool. Something else I love about the business is, this is sort of a bit the same as the other point that I made, but like, if it's last thing at night and I'm feeling inspired to do work on a project or something, I can, you know, and if one day I don't have it in me, I'm not motivated, I honestly just need a bit of time away from the computer and I need a change of scenery, then I can go whenever I want. There's something to me that's incredibly unnatural about every day starting at the exact same time, going to bed roughly exactly the same time, you know, without you know, but I just don't think bodies work like that. I don't think humans are like that. And I mean, it just might be me, you know, but like, I just don't think it's normal. I honestly think that this is something that in 100 years time, 200 years time, we'll look back on. Like, it's almost like expecting humans to be machines, to be robots who just automatically do things, you know. And the world just isn't like that. People aren't like that. And you know, I know I'm going against the established norms and everybody does it. But you know, something I've found in life is that just because everyone's doing it doesn't make it right, it doesn't make it normal. It just makes people sheep. And that's just the human condition, I think, you know. And some people kind of who dare to question these social norms, you know, are maybe seen as being a bit odd or weird or got a confused view of life. But when it comes to the working in jobs thing, you know, I haven't, you know, this isn't my first rodeo. I've probably had more jobs than anyone I know in my life. And a lot of that's just down to the fact that, you know, for what I've just explained, I just can't cope with just the mundane, every single day, never ending, and then you retire. And your body's old and ruined and you're out of ideas, you're probably beaten down by life. Oh, but look, there's some money, there's a pension, away and die in peace, you know. I just doesn't work. I don't think it's normal. And when you look at the way the economies, especially in, like, you know, the Western world, definitely the UK, like, it's just, I think we're moving into a direction more like that. You know, you do, at the same time you've got companies getting larger and monopolising, you know, more and more industries. Just Amazon comes to mind, you know. However, I do think more and more people are being able to find a route into starting their own business, because all the technology is allowed for really easy access to information, and also social networks are allowing people to kind of talk through their experiences and describe their experiences of starting a business. And I know certainly, and I have no means of, the next Alan Sugar or Richard Branson, or Elon Musk. I never will be. It's just not me. I'm very lifestyle first, income second, in that order. But good afternoon. Yeah, I think I was at around sort of 4 or 5 years ago. I was sort of trying to give up alcohol, and I'd realised that I had a bit of a problem. It's sort of, I just couldn't stop, and the kind of list of bad incidents was starting to stack up, purely based on my behaviour after too many drinks. And so I wanted to do something about it. So I went to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, an AA meeting, and just to see if it would give me, help, basically. And it's not to any names or anything like that, but it seemed like half the people there were like, there was definitely a theme amongst the other alcoholics, and that was, I don't understand why I can't get happy. I'm so successful, I've got a great job, I make all this money, I've got a big house, but I can't stop drinking because I'm miserable and I want to kill myself. That was the sort of thing, that most people were saying. That was basically what it came down to. And the more I thought about it, is that if that doesn't prove that by turning up to a 9-to-5 job that you hate just to make money, and that's where it'll take you, that's and it's just not for me, Anyway, so what are some of the downsides about running a business? The things I hate. So obviously there are things that aren't as good as when you work in a business. So for example, I have no guarantees of how much money will be in my bank account at the end of the month or the week or whatever, which means it can be quite hard to plan things in the future. I really do feel, and my business is incredibly young. It's like 2 years old, it's not, basically 2 years old, maybe 3. I've basically done very little. I do write articles for it and stuff, but in terms of promotion, that's about all I do. Hiya, who's it? And then basically, so what do I not like about running a business? Well, I think the uncertainty of how much you're going to get paid and when you're going to get paid is obviously one of the main ones. That's the big one, because if you can't pay your bills, then things go south very quickly, So you always have to have a little pot of cash sitting there as a little safety net. However, that reason right there, hi buddy, that reason right there was the reason that stopped me starting a business for almost 15 years. And I can say now, after 3 or 4 years, you know, of running a business, that it's nothing like as much of a problem or a worry as I thought it would be. It's something you got to be aware of more than anything, but it's nothing I have kind of heart-sinking thoughts about, you know. It's not like a worry in any way. It's not something that bothers me. There's sort of, I've got this kind of like omnipresent sense that everything's going to be okay with this business. It's strange, and you know, I'm not sure I've got evidence to suggest that I should be thinking that way, but I just think, you know, I think that stops a lot of people starting businesses, that exact thing. And the truth is that since I started, it's barely been a thought that's crossed my mind. I do worry about it sometimes, but I probably think about it once a month, twice a month, you know, for about a minute or two. Hiya. And that's it done. So, you know, so yeah, so like, if you're worried about that, I would say my advice would be, and obviously do your research, you know, I don't know your exact situation, but my advice would be, don't stress it. Like, for example, so I do, you know, I've got a digital agency basically, and so what my focus has been with the digital agency is not focusing so much on doing one-off jobs, like, for example, designing a logo or building a website. You know, these are very much one-off jobs. You could do the work, pour your heart, life and soul in it, you know, and then you might not hear from the person again. You know, it's not, you know, nothing to do with the work that you've done. It's just the fact that, you know, once they've done a website, that's about it. You know, you've done your work. That's it. That's all they needed you for. So, whereas, you know, something that I've tried to focus on recently to alleviate that worry. Hi, how are you? Lovely weather, isn't it? Something I've been focusing on recently is focusing on more monthly payments. So that would be things like social media management, managing people's Facebooks, writing articles for them. It's the sort of thing that will bring in money every month. And then you start to see your monthly income go up. And as that bar rises, the amount, you know, that threshold rises of that minimum amount based on, because you know you can always have that monthly payment, that in itself helps. There's something else that, and it's actually not something that I've had to deal with actually, is since starting the business, is clients leaving. And I think honestly, hiya, how you doing? I think honestly that's more down to I just price myself pretty cheap. You know, I take the median amount and I just kind of knock another 10-15% off it, because I can do that. It's my own business, and you know, hi. I would rather have the business in a slow ascent rather than, you know, kind of overcharge, make a bunch of money, but then never see people again, you know. So I honestly believe that when you're doing work for people, look after them, okay? You really have to look after people and show up for them, and most of all care. And it's strange because when I worked for a company, I can't say I ever really cared, you know? You know, you get indoctrinated in these induction months and training courses and things like that, and I just couldn't get into the mold. I felt like if I was to be passionate, it would be bullshit, basically, you know? And so, you know, like it was so, you know, like say you work for a big bank, right? Like a big multinational banking corporation or something. I've worked for a few banks over the years, and you're meant to be, what is it, they always say, yes, you need to be passionate about customer service, giving more than, and you know, you see these words, right? It's just, like, is it just me, or does everyone think it's a lot of bullshit? Who's passionate, honestly passionate, about customer service? It just feels is built on kind of insincerity, and I don't know, like, and it's like this, it's like everyone's doing an act, everyone's having a little play around, and you know, and the managers will expect you to say these things. You know, but realistically, deep down, everyone's really thinking, this is just bullshit. This whole thing is just bullshit. It's just profit for the directors or the shareholders. That's all it is. And then those directors or shareholders will have said to some personnel manager, right, okay, we need our employees to be driven. So what we're going to do is we're going to train them on excelling in customer service. So you end up with this pyramid of bullshit. Pyramid of bullshit. I bet that would stink. So. And everyone does it. Like no one questions it. It's so strange. And I suppose people would say, oh well, that's what you've got to do. Why? You know? Like, can we not all agree it's retarded? Everyone's talking out their arse. And what we'd all rather be doing is something we actually really care about, you know. So you know, when I'm saying these things, I'm definitely not pointing my finger at people who, because like I think of people in charities who do incredible work, and they are there, especially non-profit. You know, the non-profit, they're there, they're showing up not for the cash. Maybe there are a few, but most of them are generally there because they give a shit, and that gets them out their bed every morning because they genuinely try and improve things, you know. But outside that, the only people I think that really care are company owners about their business. Everyone else is just slaves. Now, with all that in mind, you know, it makes me think, so if I'm going to take on staff in future, and this is the way I see the world, then how will it sit with me knowing that I'm going to take on people, you know, they're going to expect that I expect that they're passionate, and it almost makes me think that I do take on people, if I ever need to, which I probably will at some point. I feel like the moment you walk in the room, I'm just going to say, look, I know you don't give a shit about my project and my business. And I know you just want to get paid. And I mean, for me, it was very much, I just wanted to get paid to do something that I found genuinely fulfilling. So, yeah, so with that in mind, I think, you know, in the future, when I take on someone or multiple people, there's going to be an understanding there from the very outset. I do not expect them to go devote their life. I don't need the bullshit about how passionate they are about the company. I don't believe it. They're probably passionate about getting paid just like everyone else. And more power to them for it. And I think the way I'm going to approach it, and this will be detrimental probably to myself in some way, but I think the net benefit will definitely outweigh the negatives, is from the very outset establish that, don't worry, I'm normal. I don't expect you to be passionate about my project, my business. And but what I'll do for you as an employee, because I know you're working on my things, my dream is, through this time that you work with me, I will pay you handsomely. I'll make sure you're treated with undying dignity and respect, which everyone deserves in my opinion. No one's getting talked down to, no one's getting disrespected, no one's getting treated like an imbecile. And over the time that they work with me, I will give them all the tools they need to go away and set up a business on their own. Because that's the real gift, and that's the real benefit. And you think, well, yeah, again, you know, doesn't seem smart, does it? Completely detrimental to the business. It won't, you won't be in business for very long if you have that kind of attitude. But you see, I disagree. I think what could happen is, yeah, they could become a competitor later on if I train them and I teach them everything that I know, and they go out and do the same thing that I'm doing, you know. But what I think will happen, and partly this is down to treating people properly and treating people with dignity and respect, is that yes, there's going to be a wee bit more competition out there, but in the industry I'm going to have more allies, more friends, more people that I can work with to overcome problems. And from that, the whole economy should, well, not the entire UK economy, but within the industry, within my sort of vague geographic location. Oh, doggies. Yeah, then there will be growth. It will help support, and it will be a better place to exist. Okay, so we are now getting pretty damn close to Loch Ness. I think it's only about a mile or two away now, maybe even not that. So, yeah, this weather is gorgeous. It's always really funny in Scotland when you have days like this, because we are so not used to this. And the entire nation comes out, gets their taps off, pal. And yeah, you've not seen so many untanned tits in your life. And I'm not talking about the female ones. But yeah, so it's nice. The Highlands is really starts livening up at this time of year. Oh, I think we're going to have to stop there and have a little look. Whew. Look at that. So yeah, I think whenever I question myself, you know, did I make the right choice coming up to the Highlands, kind of starting a new life up here? Yeah, I think I made the right decision. It's absolutely gorgeous. I'm not sure if these are apple trees over here. Looks like an orchard, but I don't think many fruit trees do so well in this climate. As glorious as it looks today, it's pretty gnarly in the winter. Oh, and then here is the gorse. Something I love about Scotland in the summertime is that all the gorse, you know, the yellow flowers just really brighten the place up. And gorse leaves are absolutely beautiful. Tastes like coconut. Really nice to sprinkle a few on a salad. You know, give the whole thing a bit of colour. Man, this is beautiful. Couldn't be any clearer. I bet the views of Loch Ness are going to be absolutely stunning. Hello. It's just so idyllic, absolutely so idyllic here. Okay, we've got a choice. Do we go down here or down here? I think we'll go this way. This will probably take us back onto the main road for a little while, and then I think it's just a little downhill section all the way down to Loch Ness. And wait till you see the views. So, you know, I've probably been cycling for about 20 minutes, half an hour maybe, and already, you know, we're in all this stuff. Peace and quiet. Oh, I see another cycle track. I'd had mountain bikes all my life before this one. I think this is a gravel bike, and so I'm not used to the turning radius on these kind of bikes. It's like turning round an oil tanker. They're just not twitchy. They're kind of meant obviously for going fast and straight lines. I just don't have the required skill to get this bike turned a lot of the time. I have to just get off and turn it myself. This with a block. Isn't that just beautiful? Ah, you can see all the blossom and the little insects flying around. It's proper idyllic stuff, this. So yeah, so what's the future looking like for this business? The problem is, right, that I'm just not a very driven person also. This is another problem, you know. I'm very much lifestyle first, you know, economy driven, money driven second. It's not, you know, this is very much a lifestyle business more than anything, because it allowed me to basically do a lot of the things that I wanted to do, you know, without any issue. So the future. So what I'm planning on now is I'm actually planning on a second business. starting a second business, which I'm not really thinking about sort of closing the other one, although I am restructured. Well, I recently did a restructuring on it because I'm gonna operate as a sole trader. I set it up as a limited company, which was I didn't really know what I was getting into at the time. I didn't really, if I'm being frank, do my research. That's okay, anything can be fixed. So yeah, swap that. There's just, with a limited company, you will be constantly doing paperwork, and there's so much stress with when it comes to that time of the month, of the year, when you had to do all your banking and everything. I hated it. Like, you feel just like I always have that constant feeling like, am I doing something wrong, or is this not right? Are they going to send me to jail because I haven't put a number in the right place? Oh, what's he doing? Right. Right. Jesus, man, these potholes. Right, okay. We're back on track. Yeah, I would start getting a puncture now because I do not have a puncture repair kit on me. And that's getting into quite a long way home. I think we're about 10-15 miles out now, so hey, if it was going to happen, then I suppose today would be the best time for it to happen. It's absolutely glorious. So yeah, the future. So what my plan is I've been kind of tinkering a lot with Hiya. Thank you. Thanks. Cheers. I've been tinkering a lot with these AI agents and things like OpenClaw and Hermes. I've recently started tinkering with something called Pi Agent, which is the kind of latest iteration. And hey, it's fascinating. It's very much, I mean, nerds love it. There's a lot of tinkering and working with code and stuff like that, which a lot of programmy type people love, which isn't so much for me. I kind of find it just annoying. I don't mind using it sometimes, doing a bit of code, but sitting there staring at command line all day, fuck that. So yeah, I've been playing about with these things and just trying to get things to work. So first is getting it installed. It's really annoying, and I think it's because I just don't have a background as a software engineer. But I thought, like, how hard can it be? And everyone was like, oh, you can set up OpenClaw in like 5 minutes. And it's like, the problem is, right, that with these sorts of things, with especially coding and that if you're following along on YouTube, say a tutorial, right, of how to install OpenClaw in 10 minutes, if at any point you're saying, right, okay, so do this step, okay, now do this step, now do this step, right, but if, say, step 2, right, well, let's shut up about OpenClaw because look at that view. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Loch Ness. Is it not absolutely stunning? Actually quite flat today, there's a fair bit of wind, but it doesn't look too choppy out there. It's the second deepest lake, although we call them lochs in the UK. Oh, and let's try not to get run over. And It's so huge, the lake, and so deep that I think it holds something like, I will need to fact check myself, but a quarter of the UK's fresh water in that one loch. There's points in Loch Ness, specifically the area out towards Urquhart Castle, which is a castle on the other side over there. It's almost as deep as parts of the sea, although it's not actually even the deepest loch in Scotland. The deepest is Loch Morar over on the west coast, which is meant to be absolutely stunning. Never been, I probably have, but I just can't remember sort of. But anyway, yeah, so and actually that Loch Morar has its own sea monster called the Morag. So you have to know, is Scottish people love a good monster. Hey, we should all love a good monster, right? There should be more monsters. I was so disappointed as a kid when I found out that monsters didn't exist. You know, most children kind of get sad about finding out Santa Claus doesn't exist. That was all about the monsters. So yeah. So now we're, hi guys. Yeah, so now we're basically at a small town called Dores. There's something about Dores is that this is where the people who would come and do Loch Ness monster hunting would always set up camp to explore the loch. Okay, so now we are cruising along the south side of Loch Ness. So this is a road that will basically take you all the way around the loch. This side, as opposed to the north side of the loch, is a lot quieter. The main traffic kind of goes along that north side, and but it's just not great for cycling because there's a lot of like really big trucks that fly down there, and you know, there's just a drop into the loch, so it sort of can be quite unnerving if you're just on a push bike, you know. Plus I think this side is actually a bit nicer, you know. There's sort of more opportunities to stop and explore rather than the other side, which is sort of fast moving traffic. But this area is so ancient. I mean, what you find is that when you go up into a lot of these woods and forests, you'll constantly come across Neolithic standing stones from the ancient Pictish people, which, you know, that's part of my DNA. My surname is Mackay, and we, you know, always talked of as being a Pictish Scottish clan as opposed to a Norman clan or a Viking clan or a, you know, Gaelic clan like with Irish roots. Mackays can trace lineage right back to the Pictish times, and we're talking, well, Neolithic, so we're, you know, it goes right back. Skara Brae over in Orkney is not too far from the kind of traditional Clan Mackay territory in the north of Scotland. Skara Brae is the oldest and, or maybe the best preserved site in Western Europe. I can't quite, but it's old. It's really old. Older than the pyramids, for example. And what's wild is that of all the places, I mean, like take Stonehenge for example, you can kind of understand that, right? Why there would be, you know, an old settlement, because the land's very agricultural, the weather's not too bad in that part of the country, and you know, and you're sort of in proximity to the rest of mainland Europe. Whereas Skara Brae is, well, if you don't know, the Orkney Islands they're even further north than Scotland. They're those islands that go right up into, that go north of Scotland, up getting towards kind of Norway. And just the storms that part of the world experiences in the winter is no joke. Like, because there's basically nothing between them and Canada, basically Nova Scotia and places like Labrador. So these big North Atlantic storms, that's kind of the first landmass they hit. It tends to be the west coast of Scotland and the Orkneys and Shetland Islands. And the Shetland Islands, which are even further north than the Orkney Islands, I mean, they don't even have trees on the island because they just can't grow because of the conditions. So you have a sort of kind of peat boggy, kind of, you know, like flow country sort of environment. I'm not sure about Orkney. I've never actually been to Orkney. I've seen Orkney from John O'Groats, which you can see when you look over the water. But yeah, that firth, I think is it the Pentland Firth? That stretch of water is notorious, and there's a lot of ships sitting on the bottom of that stretch from just the storms. I'm always in awe of the Vikings, because you know, that's where they were knocking about. But imagine, I mean, put yourself in their shoes, not having all the knowledge that we have now of navigation and just where land is. Like, getting into a wooden boat which you and your pals had put together and sailing across the North Atlantic Ocean, first the North Sea and then the Atlantic. You know, at these latitudes, the ocean is very much like the Southern Ocean, although not as bad as the Southern Ocean, because the Southern Ocean is a complete loop of, you know, there's nothing stopping the weather going around the Southern Ocean, whereas at least in the North Atlantic there are land masses there, like Greenland and Iceland, that will kind of break up some of that crazy weather. But yeah, how much courage did these people have to have, you know? And I think that really tells you about the desperation of these people, you know? How desperate do you have to be to get in a handcrafted wooden boat and sail across the Northern Ocean just so you can cook a meal you know, set up a farm and cook a meal for your family. It's wild. I was thinking, you know, the poor Vikings that ended up in Scotland as opposed to the south of England must have felt a bit hard done by because Norway's a hell of a lot similar to Scotland, you know. Oh, look, have we got some llamas? Hello there. I know I'm in the middle of the road, but look at these little chaps. Hello. Look at your haircuts. Are you beautiful? You must be too hot in this weather, aren't you? You beautiful. They're just chilling. You're just chilling, aren't you? God, they are so cool. Goodbye. They're so camel-like. Yeah. Obviously, llamas are not native to Scotland. Or are they native to the Andes, probably, I'm guessing?